Alright guys, I'm going to try to teach you guys how to make sure we're using the review functions of our inventory and also how to use the actual versus theoretical cost detail when reviewing inventory. So right now we're just talking about our Sunday night inventories, but this can work the same way with your critical item inventory. So if you go into inventory, create review inventories, and I'm using the Bearden store as an example here. One thing you can do is make sure, I'm going to make sure that I'm reviewing last week's inventory since it was put in last night. I'm going to scroll down here and I can see final for post, and it's completed. They've posted that inventory. But one of the things that you're going to want to do is when you have counted your inventory and put in the data entry, but you have not closed it out and done the final posting, one of the things that you're going to want to take some time to do is click on this review button. So when I click on review, it brings up quantity, value, and analysis. And all analysis is where they put both quantity and they put value on the same page. We're going to start off by talking about value because I think that that is the easiest way to look at things in my opinion. So when I've clicked on review of my final inventory and I click on the value page, I can sort by variance value over here. So essentially what this is telling me is, so like say on vinyl gloves, extra large, this is telling me that I have $106 less in my inventory than the system thinks I should have. So, it thinks that I've got $106 less of vinyl gloves, thinks I've got $102 less of sugar. It's showing you the variance value of each one of those items. So if it's got a negative, then you have less in your inventory than you should. If I click variance again, it will bump up positive variance values. So this is telling me that, so this item is tenders. This is telling me that I have almost $2,000 more in our inventory than we think we should. And one thing just to start off with to help you kind of understand what you're looking at and what each one of these headers means right here. So I'm looking at the inventory from June 4th, so yesterday. The beginning inventory, this is how much I had in inventory at the last Sunday night inventory. So that's what we started out with. That's what we told the system that we had in chicken tenders back on 5/28. Sold is how much the system thinks that we sold, how much we ran through our registers. Adjusted adjustments can be a number of different things. Typically this is waste. So we're saying that we wasted $172 or about 2 cases worth of chicken tenders. Our book value this is how much the system thinks that we have in thinks that we should have in our inventory. So basically what the book value is going to be is what you started with, what you received, those two added together, minus what you sold and what was adjusted out. All right, so like I said, this thinks that we began with $1,200. We received about $3,200 worth of tenders. We sold about $2,600. We adjusted about $172 worth out. So the system thinks that we should have about $2,000 in our inventory. But last night, the Bearden store put in that they had $4,000 worth. So the system thinks that we should have $2,000, but we put in that we had $4,000 worth. So that should be a red flag to you. Anytime you see a variance value that is kind of out of whack, that should be an indicator to you that, hey, something is incorrect. All right, so we won't talk about every single item that's on this list, but tenders is a really good one that we can just point out and say, all right, that doesn't look right. I'm in this review phase of my inventory. I've done all the data entry. I haven't finalized the posting. I clicked on review so that I can look at it and say, hey, is there anything out of whack with my inventory? And I noticed immediately that tenders that we put in our final count that there was $4,000 worth, and the system thinks we only have $2,000 worth, so it's showing about a $2,000 variance. All right. So once you spot that, what you can do is the next thing I would do is say, all right, well, what were the numbers that were actually put in last night? So I'm going to click on Create Review Inventories again, and again, I'm making sure that I'm on the right posting period. So we're still looking at 6/4, and I'm looking at this 6/4 inventory. I'm going to click on View at this point. All right, and one of the things, if you have not posted it yet, I do believe if you are on Review, there is an Edit button. It doesn't show up right now because this inventory is closed out, but I am pretty certain that if you are on Review and you see something crazy and your inventory has not been closed out, you should have an Edit button up here that you can go ahead and edit the inventory entry. But so just for the sake of kind of showing you guys where the mistake was made here, like I said, I'm going back to inventory. I'm going to just click View so I can see what the actual counts were. All right, so this is showing me, and it's showing me by storage location right now what the actual counts were. All right, so one of the things that, I know that I'm going to scroll on down because I'm looking for chicken tenders. And I know that primary is typically going to be in the walk-in freezer. Secondary a lot of times is the walk-in cooler. Sometimes we've got a secondary set up as the kitchen. Bearden, just for sake of you guys understand what I'm talking about, they actually have put they just have a primary of walk-in freezer. They don't have any secondary set up. So when I pulled the actual physical paper count that they did last night, I looked at what they counted, and they had counted 60 food trays, and they had counted 7 cases. All right. But when they booked it, what they didn't realize is that for some reason, when you hit by exception, when you're you've counted all your inventory, you're trying to fill in all the zeros. If you click that button up at the top that says by exception, it's going to fill in zeros everywhere. But for some reason, this system, Crunch Time, fills in any of your critical items. It fills in what it thinks you should have in your system at that time. So this is one of the things you got to go back and make sure. Like tenders is on my critical item list. It filled that in, so I needed to zero that out. So if this was zeroed out, we would have half as many chicken tenders in there, which right now we've got about $4,000 worth when you've got both the eaches and all of these food trays and the cases counted. If they had zeroed out that $7,800, or excuse me, 7,800 pieces on the each, it would have reduced this by about $2,000, and that was almost our entire variance that we were missing on chicken tenders. So just when you're reviewing your inventory, that's one of the things you can spot is, hey, did those critical items, when I hit by exception, did it automatically populate some numbers here in the each category? So you can see it's on tenders. And what else is on there? Boneless wings is on our inventory. You can see it automatically populated 2,000 each of boneless wings. Fillets is obviously on there, so it automatically populated some here. So you just got to look through once you hit that by exception button and make sure that it has not automatically populated items into the each category for items that show up on your critical item inventory list. So just to recap really quick, when you're doing create review inventories, you've put in your inventory for final posting, and you've done the data entry, but you have not saved and closed it for final posting. You want to make sure you're going into review. You want to make sure that, I like to click on value because it's easier to view, and that's what makes the biggest difference is the actual dollars and cents of what we're putting in. And then I click on the variance button, and I'm looking for large dollar value variances. So this is a dollar value, $106.38, $102.68. So I'm trying to find the big variations there. And then I'm clicking variance again and sorting by, this is telling me I grew product. So if I'm ever growing product or completely missing product, I want to go back and double check those counts to make sure that we don't have a data entry problem.